Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. Today's Do You Know series question is, do you know the backdrop to the Feast of Mary Magdalene celebrated on July the 22nd every year? July 22nd, as we said, is the feast of St. Mary Magdalene. Traditionally, she's known as the character of a repentant prostitute from the Gospels. However, as we look at the Gospels, it's very certain that she is not associated in any way, shape, or form with sinful living. What we do know from the Gospel, for example, is that she must have had some wealth or of some sort of property in which she gave money to Jesus and his disciples to fund them in their ministry. She is also, in the Synoptics especially, she is present at the crucifixion and burial of Jesus, and she actually returns on the day after, 3 days later, to anoint the body of Jesus with the other women. In John's Gospel, she not only is present at the resurrection, but also experiences the resurrection and is actually commissioned by Jesus to go and tell the disciples that he has risen. And as a result, from very early on, she received the title of Apostle of the Apostles. So as we look at the Gospel in which Mary Magdalene is mentioned, nowhere is she associated with sinful living. The only association that most people have made with sinful living is that supposedly Jesus drove out 7 demons from St. Mary Magdalene. And some commentators suggested that this was evil spirits. Some commentators have suggested it could have been source of depression, but others have also interpreted as meaning evil lifestyle. We do know that to trace the negative reputation that Mary Magdalene has, undeservedly negative reputation, we go back to a Pope Gregory I, who roughly in the year 591 gave a homily in which he kind of merged 3 characters in the Gospels into one, which most scholars today call the composite Magdalene. In Luke's Gospel, in chapter 7, verses 36 to 50, we have a sinful woman who approaches Jesus at the house of the Pharisee and proceeds to anoint his feet with an alabaster oil as well as with her tears, and dry them with her hair. Soon after, in chapter 8, Mary Magdalene is mentioned by Luke as the woman whom Jesus had driven 7 demons out of. And finally, in John's Gospel, we have Mary of Bethany, the sister of Martha and Lazarus, who anoints Jesus in chapter 12, who anoints Jesus' feet in preparation for his burial. What Pope Gregory does is, instead of seeing these as 3 separate people, what he does is he merges them all into one, which he called Mary Magdalene. And so from that time on, the sinful woman of Luke, Mary Magdalene, and Mary of Bethany all become Mary Magdalene. And we have this composite Mary that captures the imagination not only of the theological traditions, but also a lot of the artwork that has come out since then. A lot of artwork pictures Mary Magdalene as the repentant prostitute. Actually, none of this is supported by the Gospels. None of it. As a matter of fact, the early church was very much aware of Mary as the apostle to the apostle, having been commissioned by Jesus to go and tell the apostles that he was alive. The 12th century, we know that many of the theologians supported Mary as the apostle to the apostle and gave her that title, actually rejected the notion of her as a repentant prostitute. However, the imagination of Mary as a repentant prostitute was so strong that it preserved itself in both Protestant tradition and even to this very day. Many films that have been associated, even from the time, from the late 60s onward, all picture Mary as a repentant prostitute. There are many legends that have surfaced with regards to Mary, especially legends associated with where she's buried, like either in southern France, or colored eggs associated with Mary Magdalene. But what we do know is that certainly the tradition still maintains itself, which has no basis in the gospel of her being a repentant prostitute. Mary Magdalene houses, which are for prostitutes who are attempting to reform their lives. She is the patron saint of prostitutes. So that we are not quite sure how we can get rid of, if we want, of this particular aspect of Mary Magdalene as a repentant prostitute. What we do know is that in 1988, Pope John Paul II actually named her as a disciple, an apostle to the apostles, and asked that we continue to refer to her that way. And in the revision of the 1969 Vatican II Missal, she is given her own feast on July the 22nd with her own preface in which she's named the apostle to the apostles. And in 2016, she was also given a specific preface in which that name was given to her as the apostle to the apostles. And so today we should rehabilitate Mary, not as a repentant prostitute, but as a legitimate apostle who was the first to proclaim the presence of the risen Lord alive in our midst. So I hope this has helped to explain just a bit of the backdrop of Mary Magdalene, and I hope that as we celebrate her feast day on July the 22nd, we will rehabilitate her as what she claims, what she legitimately is, the apostle to the apostles. I hope you'll come back and return to more Do You Know questions to learn more about our faith and about our gospel formation. Thank you very much.